But we have to have the discussion of what is the backline discussion of peace, of war, how do people live in it, and what is the backline discussion of peace? And that is a discussion that women are leading. And it's a discussion that is missing from the negotiating table. So it ends up, war and peace becomes about the ending of fighting, the discussion of war, let's go to fighting, and the discussion of peace, let's stop fighting, as opposed to how do we build peace? Because you have the 60-70% of the population who are actually consumed in doing that are not involved at the decision-making table. So I want to bring up a couple of issues that I have personally encountered that address the accountability on this side, on American side, on the Western side, and not on the conflict areas, because I think Abby and Nancy has very well articulated what's happening on the other end. One is we have inconsistency. I was once in Sudan talking to the government agencies over there about women, inclusion of women in the negotiation, in the peace negotiating process. And they looked at me and they said, please stop. When the American team and the European team include 50% of women in their team to us, then you can talk to us. And you know what? I was silent. I was silenced, actually, with their response. It's a true response. It is a response, you see it over and over and over again. We do not have full inclusion of women in this end. In our team, in our peace negotiation teams, in our diplomacy teams, in all our sectors. So that's one issue. Second is, sometimes we come across as even more conservative and culturally reserved than the cultures we are working in ourselves. So I'll give you an example of Iraq. When the invasion of Iraq took place, usually as nonprofits organization, we go to the UN in war zones. We go to the UN. The UN, at the minimum, helps us regulate us, informs us, this is what you need to do, this is the areas that are dangerous. They really inform us with a lot of information. This time we went to the UN said, no one is talking with us. And so we go to the US calls a meeting with the NGOs, Iraqis, internationals, and UN, all at the same time. And one of the first declarations they say in terms of humanitarian aid in Iraq, they said, we have changed the food ration distribution from the stores, where previously everyone had an ID card and you go to a store and you get your food basket, to the mosque. Now, a lot of us Iraqis were like, the mosque? What? I mean, yes, we are all mostly Muslims, not all, but we're Muslims, but the mosque plays it's not a public space in our culture, it's a private space in our culture. It's actually more private space than sometimes the churches are in here, it's particularly in Iraqi culture. And so we're all like looking at each other, it's like, what are you doing? What? You're shifting the politics of the mosque by this action. Because then I go outside and I meet the women we are working with, and they're telling me during Saddam Hussein's regime, an oppressive regime, when they said when we would go to the store, we would get our food ration as any equal citizen, because it's the store, I don't have to abide by the mosque rules. And they said it's ironic that under American administration, we have to cover and go to the mosque and fight in the backline rooms, because the mosque women are not equal in their space. It's the men in the front and the women in the back. And we have to fight for the same exact food that we used to get as citizens.